Good morning. I pulled my hair back today because it was a little bit unruly. When I put it in a ponytail, it's usually because it's not behaving itself. It doesn't look right in the camera image. I'm so vain. Anyway, today's title is 2012 Near-Death Experiences. And the little blurb that I wrote is okay. Lately, I've been handling questions from friends and subscribers. I won't promise that I will continue down this path, but today's topic is also a request. After watching the Project Camelot interview with Bob Dean and Clifford Stone last night, I decided to talk about this since Bob described his NDE. I will begin with my own story, except I'm going to jump back because I just got a request. Since I wrote that, checking my emails, I got a request from a lady who says, well, she has an introduction there, but she says, I would love to know what is your take on marriage. I am in a dilemma here, married to a greedy man, and I would really appreciate it if you reply. So maybe that's tomorrow's topic. But anyway, today's topic is near-death experiences. And in April of 2002, I was working for Margie in her small company. And she had left the day before. It was a Thursday. She had left on a Wednesday on a 3-week road trip across the United States and asked not to be bothered. And it was my duty and I usually did it on Thursday, which was payday for us. The checks were issued after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And in any case, it was my duty to go and do the shopping for the business, and I did that every week. And I usually went to Walmart and to BJ's Wholesale Club. And I had gone to Walmart first, and then stopped and in between and filled my tank up, and then I proceeded on to BJ's to get the final shopping done to go back to the business. Anyway, when I went into BJ's, I did my shopping and got to the cash register and reached for my wallet, and it wasn't there. And I said, oh, I left it on the car seat. I'll be right back. So I ran out of the store to my car and was running back into the store when all of a sudden everything got dizzy. And then I woke up and I was laying in the middle of the floor coming in, and I had all these people standing around me. And they said, do you know who you are? What's your name? Do you know where you are? And I answered all of their questions so that they would know that I was aware of everything that was going on around in the present tense. But I was told that I had turned purple, and I went face down on the floor, and 2 paramedics happened to walk into the store just as I was going down. And one of them did mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on me, and in less than 2 minutes after I hit the floor, I was talking to them. But I had no pulse or respiration when they arrived at my side, laying on the floor, and turned me over. It so happens that besides the 2 paramedics, there were 2 registered nurses and a medical doctor that were in the inner circle. And of course, they wanted to take me to the hospital because I just died. And I said, you don't understand. I said, my boss left on a 3-week vacation yesterday, and I'm in charge of the business, and today's payday. I've got to get the paychecks out. So after much wrangling with them, and they had the ambulance there ready to take me to the hospital, I signed some sort of a paper and said, no, I'm refusing treatment. And I went to work. and I got the paychecks out, and work, they had called my work. They had called the place where I worked, and some of the ladies answered the phone. And when I got back there, they said, "You've got to go to the hospital." And they called my fiance. I was engaged at the time to a wonderful lady who just coincidentally was uh, had worked for many, many years as a cardiac nurse in the coronary care unit, and I was engaged to a woman that took care of hearts. That was her profession. She was a registered nurse, and one of the most wonderful relationships of my entire life, probably the most wonderful relationship of my entire life. In any case, she left. She was working that day. Her job required her for 3 days on and 4 days off. So she had a long weekend every weekend, although they weren't always put together, but she tried to arrange as many of them as possible, and we would go on trips on weekends. In any case, she had me in the hospital. Left work and took me to the hospital in the same chain of hospitals, Health First, that was located in the area where I was in Merritt Island. The hospital's actually in Cocoa Beach. But in any case, they ran a bunch of tests on me and determined that my aortic valve was only opening 4 millimeters, which is, anything under 1 centimeter was life-threatening. And it was stenosis of the aortic valve, and they wanted to do emergency surgery on me the next day. And I said, no. I absolutely refused, and I signed myself out of the hospital the next morning and went to work. And I proceeded to work until Margie got back, and then I took a leave of absence and had some further medical tests done, in which I was doing prayer work. Anyway, I'm not going to prolong that story. I didn't ultimately have open heart surgery to replace that for over 6 months. It was the end of October 30th in 2002 that I had open heart surgery, the Ross procedure, in which they replaced ultimately both of my aortic valves, both of my valves in my heart, the pulmonary and the aortic valve. They put my pulmonary valve in the aortic position and used a human donor valve in the other position. The surgeons had never done that operation before, which I didn't know till later. I was the guinea pig. But I chose that operation because I don't take drugs, and I didn't want to have another operation in 7 or 8 years down the road, which is true of sometimes using animal heart valves, and the other one you have to take Coumadin and rat poison for the rest of your life. And I don't believe in taking drugs, period. Anyway, long story short, I didn't see any lights at the end of the tunnel. People asked me. I didn't go to any other place in between. It was only 2 minutes that I was dead. 2 minutes that I didn't have a pulse or respiration. That's my near-death experience. But the reason I'm doing this today is not to tell you that story, although I've just spent 8.5 minutes on it. The reason I'm telling you the story is because of what Bob Dean said last night. Now, that was one of the most difficult interviews I've ever had to watch, because Kerry Cassidy was continuously trying to interject the dark picture, how powerful the dark forces are, both on Earth and in the and the extraterrestrial community, how the war has been going on, and she's doing all this stuff. And Bob Dean and Clifford Stone were amazing. I mean, it is worth listening to, not to hear what Kerry Cassidy has to say, but to hear what Bob and Clifford have to say. Because let me tell you, Bob died. And he actually went, and he knew where he was, and he didn't want to come back. I mean, I did want to come back because my job I knew wasn't finished. But Bob didn't want to come back, and they said, no, you're not finished yet. You're going back. He was told, but he had conversations with him on the other side. And he's also had experiences where he's been up on motherships. Some of them, he says, are 5 miles across. These motherships and stuff like that. So they've both had lots of contact with extraterrestrials or angelic realm or beings from the other side. And Bob Dean's explanation of what he learned from those on the other side. I wish Carrie had shut up, but I'm going to get back to the lesson in that for me before I finish today. But in counteracting Carrie's negativity, Bob says, you don't understand. There's a third force at work that has said humans are going to go through the ascension and nothing's going to stop it. We're going to the extraterrestrials told them, the angelic realm said, we will stop any third world war from happening. There will be no nuclear explosions. There will be none of this. And they got that. He got that from his near-death experience, where he didn't talk about any white light or anything like that. He talked about having conversations with those on the other side that were in the know. And that's the most important element to me of the whole near-death experience. Here's somebody that actually went to the other side and communicated consciously with them, and he was able to bring back that communication to us, which is why he's still here, in my opinion. That message was something that every one of us, as light workers especially, but every human, really needs to key in on what he's done, the message he brought back from the other side in his near-death experience and his lifelong work of working with the extraterrestrials in the UFO community. The message is clear, and it's the same thing that Bill Brubaker or Bill Woods brought to us. The timeline of ascension is what we're on. I want you to understand that and get that. That message was coming through in that interview so loud and clear, despite the protestations by Carrie and her negative mindset. And let me just talk about that, because I meditated on that again this morning. I was thinking about it last night, and I again was thinking about it this morning. There's a part of me that's Carrie. In my own situation, I mean, Spirit keeps telling me, Ron, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to work out in a very good way. And I hear that. But there's a part of me, my ego, that says, but they, the courts, have so much power. That's why I'm staying as a prisoner in my own house, because I'm listening. I'm afraid that if I leave for any period of time, I'm going to come back home for any lengthy, prolonged period of time. I'm going to come back home, and they're going to have changed the locks on my house. That's an image that I was given when this thing first happened. I was told by, I don't even remember who told me, maybe more than one person. But you got to stay and protect your house. Don't abandon your house. Stay in your house, or they'll consider it abandoned. So that's why I've been staying for the last three weeks in my house. What is it? 3 weeks? Yeah, I guess it's 4 weeks already. 2017. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I've been just staying really close to home because of listening to that Carrie Cassidy voice inside of me of how powerful they are and what they can do to me. But the message that Bob Dean was driving home, and Clifford to some extent also, I mean, this is amazing stuff. I mean, amazing stuff that they were revealing from the other side, or from the extraterrestrial side. Folks, I don't know what's going to happen with any individual situation, including my own. I don't have all that wonderful insight and the ability to communicate with the angelic realm and actually be conscious of the communication. I feel some mornings when I wake up that I was somewhere else. I feel that there's been work done, and I request that. I request that my body be worked on, and my spirit and everything else. I request that, but I don't come back with the cognizant awareness virtually ever. I mean, I might have glimpses of something, where, like when I saw my higher self in one instance, in one dream manifestation, but normally I don't. Normally I don't have that luxury. In any case, what they saw, what Bob especially saw, I mean, he's a remote viewer also, and he actually remote viewed crucifixion of Jesus. And it really did happen, he says. Watch that interview. There were so many things that both Clifford and Bob pointed out. And pay attention to what Carrie is saying, because you're going to relate, many of you are going to relate to her position of realizing, of arguing, I should say, in favor of how powerful the dark forces are. The point driven home is the light wins. Bill Woods pointed that out. Others have pointed that out. David Wilcock has pointed that out. Benjamin Fulford points that out. Sheldon Neidl points that out. Many channeled messages point that out. The light wins. We all go into a virtual near-death experience every time we fall asleep, because our conscious mind is not present. It's a whole different dimension, a whole new realm. It's called sleep. But from the conscious mind's point of view, it's death. The mind ceases to function on the same level that it does when we're awake. There's nothing to fear in death or anything. And we have the assurance, finally, from the third faction that Bob Dean talked about last night, or that I listened to last night. I think it was the day before that the interview was actually happened, so it's only 2 days old. In any case, the third faction, or the timeline number 1, is set in stone. Now, that doesn't mean that nothing bad can happen in individual circumstances, but the major conflagration and the World War III that they're trying, and all these other scenarios, Bob Dean was adamant in what he was told. They will not be allowed to succeed. Their game is up. The powers that have been will no longer be. And as Sheldon Neidl said in his message last night, the caretaker governments are the ones that the extraterrestrials are taking the cues from now. The extraterrestrials aren't listening to these criminals that have been running our governments. I want you to understand that. The messages are coming through, and it resonates so strongly. Yeah, and I get the negative voices like the Kerry Cassidy voice. I get that. It's part of me, and it's part of most of us. We get this negative thing of this negative entity sitting on one shoulder and the positive entity sitting on the other shoulder, and they're like both whispering in our ear, one on one side, one on the other side. Listen to the positive one, because that's the one that's winning this time. That's the one that wins. I want you to get that. I'm getting it. I'm getting the message. Maybe tomorrow I'm going to talk about marriage and relationships. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how it happens. But for now, I want you to go back and listen to what Bob Dean shared last night. I want you to listen to him and Clifford Stone, because what they said should fill every one of you with joy. And I know it's not an easy interview to listen to because of Carrie's ineptness at interviewing and not letting the interviewee talk. She's trying to interject her points, and that makes it difficult to listen to. It was difficult for me. But stay with it anyway and listen to the whole thing. That's all I'm going to share for now, and I thank you once again for listening. I so appreciate all of you that take time to write to me, and some of you call me on the phone. Thank you very much for your connection with me. I really love you and appreciate you. Namaste.